Bienvenidos a todos a esta entrevista con el señor Hanno Pevkur. Les doy la bienvenida a todos. Brevemente, yo soy Brenda Rodríguez, asistente de Relial, y este evento va a ser en inglés, pero va a poder contar con subtítulos en español. Y bueno, quiero darle la palabra, por favor, a Silvia Mercado, coordinadora de Relial, para unas palabras.
Muchas gracias, Brenda. Buenos días a todos. Es un placer saludarlos en nombre de la Red Liberal de América Latina, Relial, y dar la bienvenida a esta quinta y última conferencia del ciclo Restart, 5 propuestas para la innovación, una iniciativa de Relial en unión y colaboración con la Alianza para Centroamérica. Este programa tiene el propósito de reunir expertos de diferentes campos, quienes nos ofrezcan puntos de vista, perspectivas sobre cómo afrontar el futuro de manera creativa e innovadora. En esta ocasión es un honor contar con el señor Hanno Pevkur, quien compartirá con nosotros su experiencia en gobierno digital, innovación, transparencia, entre otros temas. Muchas gracias también a Federico Fernández de Fundación Bases, uno de nuestros miembros más queridos, también un amigo muy cercano, pero sobre todo un profesional con amplia experiencia en el tema innovación. Pues bueno, muchas gracias a todos. Aquí estamos listos para disfrutar de una conferencia seguramente muy inspiradora.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to be at your conference and just to share some of the views, what we have done here in Estonia, and why digitalization has been a very significant role, or has played a significant role in Estonian success during past 20 a bit more years, and I try to make my presentation in 20-25 minutes, and then we have also possibility for questions and answers. So as far we are starting the slides, I will just tell a couple of words of my background. So I've been as elected member to parliament since 2007, and have been working in Estonian government for more than 8 years. I started my career in the government as a Minister of Social Affairs, spending there 4 years. Then I moved to the Ministry of Justice, and being responsible also for digitization. And also then after 6 years, I moved to the Ministry of Interior and was responsible for the for introducing also Estonian e-residency. But today I will focus on the main aspects of Estonian digitalization and digitization, and for sure I will also show some of the success stories and our timeline, how we have improved during these past 20 years, why we made these decisions, and of course then also I will tell you about our lessons learned. So I believe that this is also very important, that we can all learn from our mistakes and not to make the same mistakes by others, and also when we move to next steps, then we can also avoid ourselves the mistake. So as you probably know, Estonia is a very small country. So we have a population of 1.3 million, and once I had to make a presentation in United Nations, and I was together in the same panel with IT and Development Minister of India. And then I compared that, in India and Estonia are very similar because we both have 1.3. You just have billion, we have million. Well, obviously this was also one of the keys of our success, because we are so small and we can do most of the services nationwide. So the territory or the area of Estonia is the same size as Netherlands. So when you compare that, Netherlands has 18 million people and we have 1.3. So you can imagine that the area is quite big and we don't have so many people. So this was actually one of the reasons why we started 20 years ago the process of digitization, and we had to move towards these solutions where we can provide different services to people nationwide, and also considering that we don't have much possibilities to say to people that you have to drive all the time. So this was like one of the key factors why we started this digitization so fast. But on the other hand, Estonia has been always very active internationally, and we are the most integrated country in the northern Europe. We are a member of European Union, we are a member of NATO, we are a member of Economic Organization, OECD, and also digital nations. So, and when we take the ICT sector today in Estonia, then we have almost at the moment already more than 6% of workforce are working in ICT sector. So this also gives you a bit of understanding why we are doing so many different solutions digitally here in Estonia. So the reasons why we decided to move to the digitization and why we wanted to be so successful, one is that, when we were coming from the Soviet era and Soviet Union era, then we saw that we need to provide to our people the best services. And we were able to move to leave past all this area or this era from 80s, and we were able to start from 90s with a totally new approach. We changed the government, and when we changed the government, then all the governments starting from early 90s have been focused actually to give people the best service. And then we have been lucky actually that our leaderships throughout 30 years have been very digital or very open to digitization. And this is really, really important, because one of my postulates or one of my key principles has always been that when you want to be successful, then you have to have also a leadership for that, and the political leadership has to back you with all these decisions what you want to do. What we also saw that when you want to be successful in digitization, and to provide the best services, then you have to introduce from day one once only principle, which means that when the government or the state is asking any data of people, and then you have to do it only once. So when you ask that where are you living, then this goes to the database, and all the other state services can access to the same database of people's register, and you can see where these people is living. So you just need to ask his ID. And what we decided that we want to be a digital state. So we decided that by default the first option is digital, and now we can say that 99% of our services are basically accessible online, and this is a very useful understanding for every citizen, that he knows that when he needs something from state, then he can go to state portal and find this solution, or when he goes to any other institution, then the data is there available, and also the private sector is doing a lot here to help us with digitization, but this I will talk a bit later. So what is very important when we talk about digitalization? I told you already why. So, but now about the principles. So the first principle, what we said at the beginning, was that we want to be citizen-centric. So we don't want to see what or how this helps the government or how this helps the companies, but first and foremost, we wanted to see that how this can help our citizens. And when we started to create our services, then we wanted to take the position of the citizen. So when you log into any kind of system, then you have to be comfortable, and then you have to see the services what we have. The second principle what we had from the beginning was that we have to have, or we have to do it together with the private sector. So the public-private partnership was very, very essential, and then we had to bring this understanding also to the private sector, and actually it was vice versa, because the banks were the ones who started to ask from the government that can we have the common identification system for citizens, because every bank had their own identification for the e-banks, and this was one of the key striving moments for the government also to go on with the services and with the e-taxport. I will explain later, and all the other services that we want to do it together with the private sector, and then of course that means also that when you want to create services for the citizens, then you have to have an internet access. So we were putting a lot of energy to bring people internet. At the moment, of course, it's more and more easy as the 5G is already coming. 4G is available almost everywhere in Estonia. So this means that it makes a lot easier for all of us to create new services, and of course, always there is a question that how you can protect the data, what you own. And we said from the beginning that even when we create the services for the citizens, for the people, then everyone has to know that the data is, and the personal data belongs to individuals. So when we also talk about opt-in or opt-out options, how to create different databases, then you always have to know that the data always belongs to the personal. So when we talk about, for instance, e-health, then every citizen can close their data. By default, it is open. So this was our choice, that we say to the doctors that as long as citizens have not closed their data, it is available for the doctors. When you go to the doctor, then we can see your data. But from this moment on, when you want to close your data, except time critical data as the blood type or something like that, or some other time critical data, then all the other data you can close from the doctor. So this just shows perfectly that the essential point of view when we started creating e-state was that the data belongs to every individual. Taking all this into account, basically what we decided that as I said, 99% of the services at the moment are accessible online, and that means that we are digitalizing everything, and of course, as we have more and more new services coming to the market, then we can say that it's the ongoing process. But even when we have the Christmas time now coming, so when you go to the forest and want to cut your own Christmas tree, then I just go to the forest. I have my mobile phone. I will find the tree, I will cut it, and at this moment I can also pay for this online, and it's not a problem at all. The same is with the fishing licenses, reporting a crime, vehicle history check, or road maps, or whatever other services. Basically everything is accessible online, and we have one service. So when you can put to the next slide, I believe that's the slide where I could say that there is one service still which is not online, and this is getting married or divorced, because we still believe that for getting married you have to go to the official to say yes, or to go to church to say yes. So because this is something we cannot do online, but what you can do, that you can register your time to go to the official or to church online, but still this final word to say yes and to kiss your bride, this has to be made still in real life, not online. So, but at the moment, you never know what's going to happen in the future. But at least in this moment, we have the services, and also when we take the health crisis we have at the moment, then exactly at the same time when we introduced the or when we had the start of COVID period, then we introduced also the e-notary, which means that you can sell or you can make your testimony also online, and this is very, very comfortable that notaries can identify people online because they have the access to the databases and for instance people's register, and you can do all the services what the notary has to do, you can do online. And the same thing what we did during the crisis or when the pandemic started, we also created the online tool for Estonian Parliament. The room is what is behind me at the moment, and this was also a very good tool for us that during the pandemic we didn't have to close the Parliament, so we were able to work from our homes. And all the decisions, all the same services, or all the same tools, all the same options what we have sitting in Parliament. Every Parliament member has also the same rights, the same options working from home. So even at this moment, this week, we are working from home, and probably we will go back to Parliament starting from next week. But until today, we were working from online, so or from home. So and to do this all, we what is the starting point for all these services is that you have to identify people and online, and to have this identification, I already mentioned the banks. So to have this understanding that what the banks were asking from the government, that please give us the tool where we can identify people electronically, then we introduced electronic ID, which means that every Estonian citizen has the electronic ID in their pocket. And this is the tool where we can use identification mechanism or identify everyone online. And when we take the numbers, then more than 70% of population is using ID card regularly. And also the other two options what we have for identification, like mobile ID and smart ID, then these options are also available for identification as new methods. And I don't have enough time to talk about e-residency today, but e-residency is mainly focused for international businessmen or people who want to make business internationally. And the very simplified explanation to e-residency is that you will have an Estonian e-residency. And for instance, when you have a multinational company where the offices are in Chile, in United States, in London, in Germany, in Tallinn, then you can have everywhere, and this company is registered in Estonian business registry, then you don't have to travel to Estonia to provide the documents for the business register. You can all sign your documents online using Estonian e-residency. So, but this is not the only tool or the only option what you can do with e-residency, but this is something we introduced in 2015. So I will now go just quickly through the process. When you identify yourself, then this is a very simplified picture of our X road, and this is actually the spinal core of Estonian e-state, because the X road means that all the services, public services and private services, are linked to each other via X road. So and that means that when you go to have an e-prescription, then, for instance, 99% of the prescriptions in Estonia are issued electronically, then that means that for electronic prescription or for a prescription to have a drug, you need to go to the people's register, you have to go to the drug register, you have to go to the insurance, health insurance. So in total, 7 different registers, and all these registers are linked to each other with or via X road. And also when you go to bank, then the private services are using the X road. So this is basically the spinal core of Estonian e-state, that where all the different services are using the X road to communicate with each other, and this allows the companies and the state to change the data, and this also allows to have the understanding that you don't have to put all the databases to one spot, but every database will be in the possession of the data owner, and just the data is inquired through different databases. And we are just to understand also, we are talking about a lot about the green economy, and at this moment this is very important that we have the sustainability. Then as you can see here, so we are saving 3 million working hours annually with this solution. We are using in this database 3,000 different services or via X-Road, and when we take the transactions, then more than 1.3 billion transactions are done yearly using the X-Road. So, but just the green thinking is also very important for us, that we understand what is the value of X-Road and then these services. And as you can see, our principle has been taken over already in many other countries like Azerbaijan, Argentina, Cambodia, Colombia, El Salvador, Faroe Islands, Finland, etc. So as you see that this understanding how to link different services and different databases using the X-Road principle, this is spreading in the world quite widely. So these slides I will go through very quickly. This just shows you the timeline of e-Estonia. So the first service from where it all started was actually the e-tax board. And we understood in one moment that to collect the taxes, the best way is that when you give the people the possibility to declare the taxes so comfortably that they don't have to go to the tax board, they don't have to make the declarations online, and pre-fill the tax declarations and pre-fill data is something we need. And then already in 1999, we introduced the e-tax board, and it was a huge success. So today, 97% of all tax declarations, the individuals tax declarations and companies tax declarations are made electronically, and our tax cap is very small thanks to that solution. So the same year, 1999, 2000, we introduced the e-cabinet. So and then we started to move on. So X-Road came from 2001, then e-school. So all the data, I as a parent, I can see all my data about my kids in the school. What are they missing the lessons or not? What grades they got, etc., etc. So this was all introduced already almost 20 years ago. The same with the digital signature, ID card already mentioned. So eesti.ee is the state portal, and all the state services are there. So anything you need to make an inquiry about your own data, or even when I go to eesti.ee and I want to see that who has looked my data, then I just can have it this information with one click, that I can see that who has looked my data from different databases. So and when I make an inquiry today, then I can see that a couple of notaries, police has looked my data, and I can always ask them, why did you do that? So next slide, please. This just continues the timeline. So as you see that voting, so we started electronic voting in Estonia in 2005 already. And today we have, I have next one slide where we have also the numbers, but majority of the votes is coming already today by electronical vote. So the same with e-notary. E-notary we introduced in 2006, but as I said, that online confirmation we started from this year. This was extra tool for that. E-notary means also that the notaries don't have to make the inquiries, because before that it was a very long process to ask from the state portal, to ask data from the different databases. It took a lot of time. So e-prescription I introduced in 2010. So the next steps, what we are doing at the moment, so we started already with our AI, so artificial intelligence strategy, and we try to also continue with the cross-border solutions. We have e-prescription, which is valid already today in Finland, in Lithuania. And when our people are working in Finland, they have the prescription from Estonia, then they can go to Finland's pharmacy and buy that out.
E-governance is one of the key digitalization topics in Estonia, and it comes in many forms. As a start, the Estonian government completely discarded the old paper document-based decision-making system in the year 2000, all in favor of an innovative digital system called e-cabinet. Nowadays, the session hall is free of any stationary electronic devices, and politicians can use their own portable devices like laptops and smartphones. But how would they log in? Well, just like the rest of us, via ID card or mobile ID. They can see upcoming meeting agendas and also give preliminary votes on topics before the meeting. Topics that don't face preliminary objections won't even be debated anymore, and instead get adopted by default at the beginning of a session. That way, the average session time was cut from around 4 hours to 30 minutes, and this led to the creation of paperless parliament. So, since government representatives could vote online, the mindset started to change. 5 years later, i-voting was implemented and enabled citizens to cast their votes online for regular elections, be they local, national or European as well. Estonians can vote online since 2005, and Estonia was the first country in the world to have used nationwide i-voting in binding elections. How does i-voting work? Well, you need to download the free voting software, have an internet connection and your ID card or mobile ID. Let's try it on this laptop. So I click on ID card, then enter my PIN 1 to get authenticated. Here I have a selection of the different parties. Let's pick a candidate who is running in my district. Then I confirm my choice and enter my PIN 2, the digital signature. Once that is done, I have officially cast my vote. Let's scan the QR code to see if my vote has arrived correctly at the voting server the way I gave it. However, my vote and the status of my participation are always divided. This system also allows me to change my vote during the i-voting period, which effectively means that I can never be forced or bribed to vote for a certain candidate, which makes it a lot more secure than postal voting could ever be. Moreover, the average cost of a vote cast online is a lot lower than that of a physical vote. And of course, it's also convenient, which is why more and more people use it. I-voting is frequently used by elderly people who otherwise might not be able to physically go to polling stations. Digitalization also helps to verify the validity of civic policy efforts such as proposals and petitions. Most online petition portals suffer from the fact that they use email and IP addresses to verify users. But if you use a VPN to alter your location, you can create as many email accounts and as many signatures on the petition as you want. In Estonia, platforms like the Citizen Initiative use the digital signature, so we can use participatory budgeting and include citizens into decision-making processes. But when we talk about e-governance, the biggest question in the room must be how all these services are available to the average Estonian. The state portal, eesti.ee, serves as a portal for most digital services that we can access online. First, I need to authenticate myself with the familiar options: ID card, mobile ID or smart ID. Once that is done, I have access to services covering topics like healthcare and pensions, doing business, education and leisure. This website helps me find out which of my medical prescriptions are still valid, when my car is due for the next technical inspection, how I can create a company in less than 30 minutes, and how to update my digital fishing license. Beyond this, I can also see from the data tracker who has accessed my data, when and for what reason. In Estonia, this is called the Truth by Design approach. We also have certain services bundled into so-called live events that make those situations easier when you would usually have to get in touch with several government authorities or registries. As you can see, the online services in Estonia are very user-friendly and generally easy to understand, so that groups that might otherwise be at a disadvantage, for example the elderly, people who have spent few years in the education system, or people with disabilities, are not left behind on the path to digitalization. And this was a crucial realization for the Estonian government. Almost no one truly rejects digital solutions. They just have to be good solutions. An online service that is exactly as complicated as the offline alternative will not get many people excited. But if the online service truly solves a problem for citizens, then it will gain traction. The first service was brought online in 1999, and indeed, it solved a big problem for many people. It was the online tax declaration. By now, people can declare their income tax within 3 minutes and a few simple clicks. This service, the solution itself, was incentive enough and got many people interested in the other digital services that followed soon after. Going beyond simply user-friendly services, Estonia is also working on what we call proactive governance. What does that mean? Well, even though most services are available quite conveniently online for Estonians, it is still ultimately the citizen that approaches the state for a certain service. Proactive services aim to reverse that logic, so that the government approaches you when it knows that you are entitled to a certain service. For example, when my doctor registers the birth of my child, I automatically get access to child benefits and other support measures to which I am entitled. Proactive services are particularly powerful in situations where a large majority of the population chooses one option over another. So, if 99% of people want child support and 1% does not, then that 1% should be the ones contacting the government to inform them about that decision, not the 99%. In such cases, the benefits of saving time are self-evident, and the Estonian government is working on providing such services as we speak. As you can see, e-governance is another one of those topics which show us how the path of digitalization never ends, because there are always new options and solutions that can be implemented.
Yes, I will now just have 3 more slides very quickly. So just to sum up with e-governance, so just understand that this was a strategic choice for Estonia. So as I said, you have to have a political leadership, and then when you make this strategic choice, then you can also move on with the services. We have to understand that that it has to be also supported by digital identity. We have to have secure data exchange, and of course the databases itself, they have to be very high quality databases. So for us has always been a very crucial that we have the transparency which comes with the e-services, because I always say that, you know, when we talk about data protection and transparency, then it's very important to understand that I always bring this example that when my medical data is stored in the file on paper, and then I never know how many copies of that has been made. When it's stored electronically and someone will make an inquiry or look for this data, then I see immediately. And we have fired a couple of policemen, for instance, when for their misuse of databases. And also you cannot use someone's medical data without a trace. So there will be always a trace, and this brings to the topic that it gives transparency and gives the security for the people. We always have to have or bear in mind that when you create services online, then they have to be user friendly, and you have to involve people for the decision making processes also. And I mentioned already data protection, and this once only principle I already explained. So when we go to the next slide, please. Then just by facts, at the moment, as I said, 99% of the public services are online accessible, and the biggest use or the biggest success, I would say, is tax declaration and also medical prescription. 99% of the medical prescriptions, or 98, are prescribed today electronically, and as a whole, majority of people are actually satisfied and happy with the public e-services, which is a great success considering that sometimes people are not happy with the governments. But here we talk about not the government, but the state services, and with these are people happy. We say, I said already, the usage of the ID card. And when we talk about elections, then as you see that almost half of the votes was given electronically, and just by facts that we are #1 today in the world as a freedom of net index, and our e-government is ranked 3rd in the latest UN e-government survey, and just as a fact, 8 on the index economic freedom globally, and 3rd in Europe. But and now the last slide of mine just takes or concludes with the lessons learned, and just to remind again that you have to have a clear and strong political leadership for the e-services. My suggestion has always been that when you explain something to people, why you are doing this, keep it short and simple. So when you say what are the benefits, and then it works better. As I said, transparency is very, very crucial. And when we talk about databases, I explained that during the X-Road slide, that you have to have shared platforms. These works quicker, and you don't have any, or you don't have much problems when the data owners are keeping also the platforms and databases in a good shape. Service design, basically it's the same with keep it short and simple. So you have to keep or you have to bring the citizen approach or the client's approach to that. Keep the public-private partnership and stakeholders' interest. So I will put this together, and I will give you a good example of why medical prescription is so popular in Estonia, because everyone are benefiting from this. So the doctors are benefiting from that. Basically, you can also prescribe when your patient is calling you. The pharmacies are happy, the citizens are happy, the state is happy. So all the stakeholders are happy with this solution. I can also bring you one solution what was not so successful, which is the X-Road. The pictures what are like MRT and CT pictures which are made in the hospitals, and X-ray pictures which are made in hospitals, because as every picture is paid by Estonian health insurance, then the hospitals were not happy with that we had the transparency between the hospitals, and that is why the hospitals were not happy, and this service didn't start as well as the medical prescription. So this just gives you an understanding that you always have to have all the stakeholders on board to be successful with these services. So as less you have restrictions, the better the services are working. And when we talk about the X-Road, then the X-Road is a very good example that you don't have to think that you are creating something for your use only. Just think globally, and this gives you more advantages also for your own future. And last but not least, simple is always beautiful. So my last slide is the next one. And this just sums up everything, and well, as we have seamless for the future, we want to have seamless e-services available 24/7, which was also brought to you in the short video, that we are changing the understanding that the state is contacting the citizens, not vice versa. And we all have to understand one thing, that digital world is not the future. It is part of our everyday life already today, and we just need to cope with that and work in this direction to give people the best services we can. So just to conclude, there is no option of not making a decision. So you have to make a decision now, and to start building the better future for our citizens in all our countries. So thank you very much. You can find more information in eestonia.com. And of course, I'm always available for contacts if you have any questions, or I can bring you to the people who can give you the best answers regarding Estonian e-state. So thank you very much for listening, and now I'm ready to answer all the questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pevkur. for this interesting presentation. I will give you now the floor to Mr. Federico Fernández to continue with the interview. So Federico, please.
Well, hello, Brenda, thank you. And hello, Mr. Pevkur. It was great listening to your presentation. There's a lot, to talk about. Probably, we won't have time to discuss about everything. I would like to start with the following question. You mentioned several times during your speech and at the end as lessons learned, the importance of leadership. And you mentioned that Estonia in the last 30 years has had a very digitally minded political leadership. What do you think are the reasons for that? Do you think is in part some sort of reaction to what used to be the system that Estonia suffered before the independence was regained in 1991? Or why do you think that during these 3 decades of Estonia recovering its independence, the leadership has been so committed to digitalizing the nation?
Thank you very much for this interesting question. So first of all, I have 2 reasons for that. I believe that this is my point of view. First of all, we have had here in Estonia a common understanding that not looking who is in the government or who is in the coalition or who is in opposition, we have 3 areas where we have the common understanding. So one is defense policy. So we all understand that what means to keep your independence and how you have to fight for that, and you have to put focus to that. The second is foreign policy. And we have said from the early 90s that we want to be a very integrated country, and we want to be a part of European community. We want to be a part of NATO, and one of the slogans was that never alone again. So, which means that these 2 have been the key railways for us for the future. And I would say that the third pillar of that was digitalization. And why I'm saying that is that every politician is also just a citizen. First and foremost, we are citizens. So when I can use, as a politician, I can use these services which make my help easy or my life easier, or which help to live my life, then I would like to also to put more energy to move towards new goals. And I believe that also we have had the luck from the early 90s to have quite young people in our government. So our first prime minister after the independence war was just a couple of years over 30 when he became a prime minister. And since that time, we have always had very progressive, very young people in our government, and we see the advantages. So when every one of us sees the advantage of digitalization, then you are more than happy also to continue the road which have been built by previous or by former governments. So I believe that as I said also in my presentation, that most important is that show the benefits for everyone. So when you show the benefits for each citizen, then you can also show the benefit for a politician. So, and then when you can do something which are most welcome by citizens, then you can also wait for a better election result. So it's maybe a circle of life, but I still believe that one of the main reasons was that we are first and foremost still everyone, even the politician. I know that it might look strange, but still all the politicians are also citizens.
Indeed, yeah. And well, there are several things, particularly with governance, that I also want to discuss with you. But before that, you mentioned it briefly during your presentation, and I think it needs a little bit more of, we can talk a little bit more about it, which is an excellent initiative that this year is turning 7, which is the e-residency. And the e-residency, you were mentioning this, let's say, this ambition of Estonia of being a global country, and it's definitely a declaration of intent. What can you tell us about it? How do you see the program after 7 years, and how do you see the future developing for it?
Yes, I'm honored to be the Minister of e-residency. At the time it was introduced. So when we introduced that, then the aim was to get 10 million e-residents. And I still believe that this aim has to be there. So you have to have big goals to achieve something. So when you say that, okay, let's have 1,000 e-residents, that doesn't ring a bell to everyone. So you have to put like high goals. And at the moment, of course, we are seeing that some of the people, as always, with all those global services, want to misuse the e-residency, but in general, the service has been very successful. And we really see that this helps to make Estonia bigger. And you know, as an international business hub, it's one of the options. That, as I said, that when a global company who has offices in Hong Kong, in Buenos Aires, in New York, and in London, they have to sign any kind of papers, then please use the e-residency. You can save a lot of money not flying all the time in business class. You can just use our e-residency for signing the documents, and as the registration of the company takes in Estonia 18 to 20 minutes. Which is also like legally approved company. I'm not talking about that you are creating a company in notary and then it takes time to be in the court system. But in Estonia, the record still is 18 minutes to establish a company. Then we can all understand that this is the future. I believe that this is one of the key factors for the future business, that, you know, all the businesses will be global, and it is not important to have in one spot all the offices or the headquarters. So you can have as many headquarters in the world as you want. So I believe in e-residency, and I believe that, you know, growing of e-residency is one next step, and it's like, I would say that e-residency is like a startup. We started like small, and then in one moment it goes global, and it just takes a couple of more years. But it's, as always, it was like with Angry Birds, you know, the one Finnish crazy guy started with a small video game or small application called Angry Birds, and it was one of thousands, and in one moment it just boomed, and it's the same with e-residency. So a couple of countries are copying it already, and now it's the battle of environments.
Yeah, indeed. And well, speaking of environment and how Estonia makes it easy for entrepreneurs, for people who want to start a business, both from Estonia and from abroad, thanks to initiatives like the one of the residency. Another, let's say, I would say, cornerstone of the Estonian success of the last 30 years is the tax system that you have, that according to the Tax Foundation is the most competitive tax system in the OECD countries.
Yes, it's true, and this is also one of the like the key elements of the entire business environment. So yes, we have a very simple tax system, although when we had a couple of years ago governments which is more left-winged, and then they changed it a bit, but still the main principle for the businesses stays the same. So when you invest your money back to your company, then the income tax is exactly zero. So, and this is the most important, that we don't have the income tax for the companies. Only when you take the dividends, then you have to pay income tax. But as long as you are growing your company constantly, then you don't have to pay income tax. And definitely, you know, when we put together the tax system, when we put together the establishing the company and also managing your company and running your company, then definitely one of the best environments to have a business. Also at the moment, together with e-residency, to have the headquarters here in Estonia, even, you know, producing something in Chile or Argentina or Cuba or whenever, wherever, then this is the possibility at the moment globally to establish a company here in Estonia.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, you were mentioning this idea of this citizen-centric governance, and in a sense, I think the Estonian tax policy is that applied to taxes in the way that if you are starting a company, usually when you, let's say when, and you know, particularly young people or whoever want to start a company, it's not that they have 100 potential clients lined up and saying, hey, please start a company and we'll start paying you immediately. So at least you run a lot of risks being an entrepreneur, but at least you don't have to pay the state in order to exist. First you make money and then you pay, not the other way around, which is like basically how is it in many countries in the world, most of them.
Yes, and not only that, but what you can do here in Estonia, you can establish a company with zero like input. So you don't have to have any money for that. So basically what we say that even the share or the stocks or the share what you have to have to establish a company, you don't have to have. So with $0 or €0, you can establish a company, and then in a certain amount of time, you will establish also the capital for the company. So this is very important to understand that yes, when someone wants to establish a company, please, you are more than welcome to do that and take the risks later. So we try to put the understanding also in our schools that being an entrepreneur is a normal thing to do, but of course it's not so easy, and globally we see that still about approximately 10 to 50% of young people want to be entrepreneur. And sometimes when I go to schools to explain that to young people, then I will ask normally that, okay, how many of you want to be an entrepreneur? And when I see 10 to 15% of hands, then I say to the others that, hey, now look around. These people are the employers for you in the future. So then, it's not possible, but this is the truth. So in the government system, you don't have much workforce, and most of the people are still working in the labor market in private companies.
Indeed. And well, speaking of being an entrepreneur in Estonia, Estonia has, and please correct me if I'm wrong, has 7 technological unicorns, and it's the country that has the highest per capita rate of unicorns in Europe and probably in the world. How have you seen that process? How does it make you feel as an Estonian and as someone who is involved in politics? And how does the society related to this?
Yes, of course, we are very proud of all these businessmen, and especially most of them are very young. So when we go back in time, actually also Skype was invented in Estonia. So many yes, the investment came from Nordic countries and from Sweden, but the inventors and programmers, actually the IT people were from Estonia, and they benefited a lot when they sold this to Microsoft. At the end, but yes, to start actually the success story of Estonian ICT sector, I would say that yes, the first bird was Skype, but then already Bolt and TransferWise and the other unicorns. So at the moment, of course, all these unicorns, they are working globally. And this is also when you remember my presentation. So this was one of my lessons learned, that think globally. But also when I take all these unicorns which have started their business here in Estonia, they also benefited from the simple tax system and also establishing a company and all these e-services what we had. Because when we take the mobile parking or transferring bank account or money to bank account or whatever other services, this was so easy. And then when we take TransferWise, this basically grew up from the understanding what we had here between the big banks, and then they saw the obstacles what you have transferring money in big banks, and that is why they created TransferWise, which is now Wise. And then also when we take the taxi company Bolt, or the sharing platform, then we see today already also, which was a boom in our pandemic time. Bolt Food came into the market as Wolt. So all these services, you know, as always, when there is a gap or there is a need on the market, then someone will fill this gap. And exactly, I believe that our young businessmen, they understood and they felt that what is missing on the market, and that is why they created this, and that is why we are so proud of them, that we have so many unicorns today, which were established here in Estonia.
Yeah, indeed. And you have, I mean, like this virtuous cycle that, you know, an easy governance, easy taxes created the environment for these entrepreneurs to grow. And then now you have in Estonia this magnificent phenomenon that, you know, the name can be misleading, the so-called Estonian mafia. All these very successful entrepreneurs who are nurturing future entrepreneurs from the country. Unfortunately, Mr. Pevkur, we are running out of time, and I have only time for one more question. I'll make a little bit of a trick, and I'll ask you two questions in one, and we will wrap up. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I thank Relial for this opportunity, and of course you. My last question is the following. It has to do with the, let's say, with the political system and the state. The first is, with all these possibilities, particularly voting and all and how this is growing, do you see, are there discussions at least of Estonia to go to a system of direct democracy or referenda as there is in Switzerland, for instance, since it's so easy that you can vote basically from your cell phone? And the second one, what are the measures the state tries to put in order to never overreach? Because that's, you know, the constant problem, let's say, both with the state and with technology, that sometimes it can go like too far and, you know, go. So that's my last two-part question.
Yes, now it takes 1 hour to explain that. So first of all, regarding the direct democracy and possible referendums, we have a clear understanding or clear instructions in our constitution. So what we can put to referendum and how you can put the questions to referendum. So basically we have two options. My background as a lawyer, so that's why I'm saying that it takes now 1 hour to explain that, but very simplified. So we have two options. One is that you just ask opinion from the people, and this has no legal consequences. So this we can do either via referendum or via just questionnaire. So basically there is no difference to, you know, to take the opinion from the people. But the other option is to put something to referendum as a bill, as a possible law proposal, and when this doesn't go when this doesn't get 50% of the votes of the people, then the parliament has to resign. So this just, you know, keeps back the politicians to play with the idea of referendums. So basically, when we put something to referendum to ask people, then as we have the direct democracy and we still believe that the parliament has to take the decisions. So the aim of the democracy is that the parliament will take the decisions. So when you put every question to the referendum, then the understanding of that kind of democracy will be changed, and that means that you have to think through very carefully what you put to the referendum. So that is why we have had just 4 referendums. One was to take the constitution. One was to change the constitution regarding the European Union. Actually, regarding the constitutions, we had 2. And then one was to join the European Union, and the last one was also to change the constitution regarding the Estonian language. So that shows that all the politicians, they have to be very careful with the referendums and to understand that we have parliament and we have parliamentarian democracy. So direct democracy is, yes, possible, but we have to be understanding, or we have to understand that it has also the consequences. So that is why, yes, it is easy to put something to referendum, but the Constitution gives the clear limits what you can put to the referendum. And now just going over this imaginable red line, yes, it is very tempting to do that, but to be frank and to be clear, I don't see that threat at this moment, as we have very good constitution. It has served us for 30 years, and the constitution also gives us the possibility, or gives us the right, the legal chancellery or the president to stop any stupidities, or to say that now the parliament has gone over the limit, or some other strange when parliament, let's say so, when parliament goes do nuts, then the legal chancellor or the president or the Supreme Court has the handbrake in their hand to say that this is the limit, we cannot go over this. So I believe that in that sense, Estonian constitution has served us very, very well. I truly believe that we have one of the most modern, but still very good constitution, which serves us. And of course, we have had debates from time to time, but especially in the last years when the populism is growing everywhere in the world. But still, I believe that the mechanism which have been set in Estonia are preventing from these stupidities. So thank you very much, all of you. I'm open for follow-ups, and if you need any kind of clarifications or some more information, then my email is easily findable, or easy to find in the internet. And please ask the questions, or if I can help to improve your country's systems, or to put some more entrepreneurship, or also the forward-thinking approach to all of you, then I'm more than happy to do that.
Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Pevkur, and of course, Federico, for this interview. I will hand over to Siegfried Herzog, Regional Director of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation, for some closing remarks. Please, Mr. Herzog.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Mr. Pevkur, for this excellent presentation. As closing remarks, I would try to look at what do we learn from this. I think obviously Estonia has established itself as a leader, as a global leader in digitalization, and in that sense it shows us the future, or the possibilities, the opportunities that are there, and that are indeed, as you mentioned, in a sense unavoidable, because digitalization is more and more becoming part of our life. We are in a major transition, like from steam engine or from steam power to electrical power. As an economist, I would say this is another Kondratiev. We're reordering our world at the moment. Of course, Estonia is also a special case. It had on the one hand, the difficulty, but also the opportunity to start from scratch when it got formed again as an independent state after decades of Soviet dictatorship. So it could design systems from scratch, and was less restrained by, let's say, forces of status quo. And in that sense, it shows what is possible. What is important, I think, what we learned from it, one is you need a committed leadership, and Estonia has been blessed with several decades of committed liberal leadership, because a transformation of this type is probably 60% political leadership and 40% technology or technical work. And this is actually even more important when you have to fight entrenched status quo interests, something that Estonia probably had to do a bit less. What are important elements? As you mentioned, one one part is building a system that is transparent and open. That is something that is crucial for democracies, that people, that the system becomes more open, that people have the feeling that they know what's going on. But the other is also that what I took away is that Estonia took a decision to have really an open source infrastructure, that the backbone of the system is open source, it's accessible to all. It does not allow proprietary company interests to control the vital backbone, the vital infrastructure. I think this is important in also for the debate in Latin America, where sometimes there's a hesitancy or there's a debate about the proper role of the state. I think keeping such a vital backbone infrastructure open and accessible to all is the vital function of the government and the vital element of building a truly competitive system. The benefits of this, why should we do this? One is indeed this allows us to make things easier for the users, and I think this is really crucial. You described several examples. I would just mention the child support system that you get automatically once you register the birth of a child. That the system has to be designed from the point of the user and from the point of view, make things easier, make things simpler. This is, I think, a philosophy that in most of our countries, whether it's in Latin America or in my native Germany, is something that the bureaucracy is not very comfortable with. So usually systems are designed for the benefits of the bureaucrats and not for the benefits of the users. This is, I think, a crucial change in perspective that we need to take on board. But the second is also that such an open system lowers transaction costs. It allows, as I mentioned, more transparency, and those are, and of course, crucially, it also takes away discretionary decision-making power. It takes away obscurity, and that means it lowers corruption. So these are important ingredients for better economic growth and more equitable growth, that you have lower transaction costs, whether it's in time spent with the bureaucracy or in other costs, or indeed in hidden costs and hidden corruption costs that such a system lowers or almost eliminates. And last but not least, that the system is designed for the global market, that Estonia looks at its place in the world. A small country, it needs to be open to the world. It needs to adapt to the world, and it has designed its system in such a way that it has become indeed a model and an example to the world. That's something that where I would congratulate Estonia. This is it's really one of the most heartwarming examples that has come out of the long dark night of communism, and it's something that I think we can and should emulate, because this is the package that we would all have to strive for. And the decision is not to take a decision on this, as you say, is also a decision, namely to mean that decision means we don't allow our people to take advantage of the opportunities that are there, and that, as Estonia has shown, that work and that make our lives better. So thank you very much. These are the takeaways that I would like to share today. Thanks again for this enlightening presentation and for giving us so much time in your busy schedule.
Thank you very much, and all the best to all of you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Siegfried Herzog, and thank you everyone for joining us. I really enjoyed it, and I wish you all a nice day. See you soon.